Hello, and welcome to the November LAM Book Club. I am so excited to be with you guys this month. This has been an exciting month already, and we're just at the beginning. So, this past weekend was Indie Author Day. And for those of you who have followed me for a while, you know that I'm an indie author. That just means that I publish my own work and I take it very seriously. And I try to and hope that I put out really good quality work for you and good stories that readers are going to enjoy for a long time to come. So it was very exciting for me to just think about Indie Author Day and see all of the posts that people were putting up and celebrating the fact that we have so many indie authors. So that was a great start to the month of November. Also, I went to the Louisiana Book Festival at the end of last month, and that was such a blast. I will talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But it was just amazing to be there, to be on a panel with other incredible authors, to meet other authors from all over the country, and to meet readers. That was a particular treat. Plus, I got to see my book's cover up on the wall of book covers, which was pretty cool. I remember seeing that big, huge wall full of book covers for years, and I don't know that I ever really dreamed that I would have a book cover up there one day. I don't know that I even dreamed that high, but it was a pretty incredible thing to see. So that's been a pretty, I guess, just fantastic start to this autumn season as we're gearing up toward the holidays and we're thinking about gifts for others. I always immediately think about books. I don't know about you, but that tends to be the first thing that I think about when I think about giving gifts. I know that's what I would love to get, and so that's just what always comes to mind. So, on that note, I thought that it would be a good idea since we've just had Indie Author Day, and since I have had a few opportunities recently to interact with some other indie authors. I thought that I would share a little bit about that with you guys. And I want to encourage you to support indie authors when you're thinking about your holiday purchases. So, a few that I'm going to share with you, I've had a few purchases in the past few months, and most of them are indie authors. So, I just wanted to share very quickly. I'm not going to take a lot of time to do this, but I just wanted to show you what I've gotten. And some of these might be ones that you would be interested in or someone on your gift list might enjoy. So, first up, this is a book I actually had several years ago and had purchased several years ago. And then I gave my copy to a good friend of mine, and I had to have another copy. So, this is Final 42, and this is by Christy Decker, who is a fantastic indie author out in Texas. Her husband is a police officer, and this book is all about a police team. And more than that, it's about their families and just that whole dynamic of the support that the families give to the officers and how much they need that support, especially at particular times. So, I have read this book. It is a fantastic book, and I definitely recommend it. It is a bit of a tearjerker in places, but it's if you like the show SWAT, for example, that's a show that my husband and I are reading through right now. Reading through. See, I always immediately go to books. We're watching that show right now. It's along the same veins where it's not just about the police action and all of that. It really touches on the personal lives of the officers and their families. And I really appreciate that aspect of both that show and this book, of course. So, definitely recommend that one. And then I got to go to 2 book signings for local indie authors. Now, this one I haven't read yet, but Anne Marie Jameson, this is the second book in her series. And I had her first book, A Bed of Roses. I've had that and read it and enjoyed it, set in Natchitoches. And this is Belle Rose, the second in her series. I'm looking forward to diving into this one as well. She has several other books out. I want to say there's 5 of them now. Ooh, I could be wrong. Should have double checked that. But I know there are several. So if this is your kind of thing where you've got family sometimes a little bit crazy family. We all know how that is, right? Like, that's just family. But set in Natchitoches, surrounds a bed and breakfast in the area. Um, yeah, it's a really good book. And then this is a new to me indie author. I recently met him at his book signing, but I've seen his name around in many places. A.B. Parr, Anthony Parr, is another local author. And this is Blood Ties. And this is the first in this series. I believe it's just the 2 books. I really should have double checked this stuff before I started talking, shouldn't I? Book 1 of 3. Thank you for putting that on the back of your book. That's my little cheat sheet. Okay, so Blood Ties, Dead Cold, and then the third is Showdown. So this is more of a Western. Okay, so I don't know that I've talked about a lot of Westerns. And something that I may have not mentioned before, I can't remember. I grew up reading absolutely every single Louis L'Amour book I could get my hands on at my local library. So this is going to take me back, I feel like, to my childhood. And I'm looking forward to reading this one as well. Anthony was also featured as a book club participant for a local news station's new book club, which was super exciting. And our wonderful Dane Books in Covington, Louisiana, Mariana from the bookstore has been going and speaking on that show, talking about different books and getting people excited about the book club. So he got to be one of the featured authors, which was super, super cool. So I'm excited to read those. Okay, and the other books that I wanted to share with you guys came from the Louisiana Book Festival. So that was at book festivals, you typically have all of the featured authors and panelists who are on panels, and then they have specific book signing times during the day through whoever the primary bookseller is at the festival. And then you have places called either Exhibitors Row or Authors Alley, or I think every festival has a different name for it. But these are typically indie authors or smaller publishers who purchase a table and they sell their books there. So during some of my spare time on that day, I definitely had to hit those tables because I was an exhibitor there a few years ago, and I wanted to make sure that I stopped by and checked out some of their books. And before the day, I had looked up to see who all was going to be there so that I knew what tables I wanted to try to get some books. It's just a time saver. So last month I shared a few tips for going to book festivals, and that's one of the tips that I shared. Just kind of knowing who's going to be there ahead of time, doing a little bit of research so you know what books you want to make sure you get and what authors you want to meet. And so that's something that I did. So 2 of the authors I got to meet and got their books. And so this one, let me show you this one first. So my husband and I plan to share this one, 1897. And this is an author from, I believe she's from Texas as well. We've got a couple of Texas authors here. Interesting. So this is a book that is kind of a historical intrigue, mystery type thing. So gold. There's gold in here. See, all of these things that are intriguing and interesting about 1897 in the Yukon. So my husband and I are very excited to read this one. So this could be one that ends up being like a couples book club book. So 1897, Kimberly Mullins. And then y'all know that I love fantasy, right? Okay, so this is a Louisiana author, and this is Firesight by Jessica Dean Norris. And there be dragons. You know that attracted my eye. And I have to show you this because it's super cool. So I'm going to take off the book cover. I had to get the hardcover because is that not gorgeous? And it's red, which of course is my favorite color. And there are dragons and it's fantasy. And yes. And Jessica is also a homeschool mom. Like I said, she lives here in Louisiana. So I feel like we're going to be chatting here pretty soon. And I really am excited about reading this book. This book won, I'm trying to see if I don't know if it's on here. It won a Mom's Choice Award, I think, or something like that, which is fantastic. So I know I'll be sharing this with my kids as well. Um, yeah, very excited. So that is that book. And then I did get one other book while I was at the festival. And she's not an indie author, but she is so sweet. She was the moderator for our panel, and she was so kind, and she asked such great questions. And her name is Fatima Sheikh. And this is one of her books. This is called What Went Missing and What Got Found. And this is a collection of short stories. And the tie uh, amongst all of the stories in this book is New Orleans. Okay, so these are all set in the New Orleans area. And I'm very interested to read this because, of course, New Orleans is basically in my backyard, and anything about the area fascinates me. I also love short stories. The panel that we were on was the short story panel. So, plus, do y'all see this cover? I had to get it, if for no other reason, although there were plenty of other reasons too. It's a hummingbird, and it's red. I'm a sucker for red things, hummingbirds, dragons, horses, cats. Isn't that right, Tolkien? Yeah. So there we go. I had to get this. So very excited about that book. So that is a kind of a wide range of types of books that you might be interested in yourself, or you may have someone on your gift list who might be interested. And like I said, the only one of these books that I have read so far is Final 42. But if you have questions, as I read them, I'll be sure to let you know my thoughts. Check out my Goodreads, because whenever I read books, most of the time I will put a review on there, or you'll at least be able to keep up and see if I've read something or not. But yeah, so that is this month. I just hope that you guys will take some time to look for indie authors or just smaller authors maybe that you haven't heard of before. Ask friends for a favorite author of theirs who you may not have heard of, and really support our indies and support our independent bookstores. So as you're making your purchases, hopefully you have a great indie bookstore in your area. If you don't, there is the online option of bookshop.org, and that is a better option. I'm just going to say it, I believe, a better option than Amazon, and this is why. Bookshop.org supports independent bookstores. So you can choose a bookstore that you want to support, and a certain percentage of your sales go to them. And when you get your books in the mail, it'll say from whatever the name of the bookstore is. If you don't have a bookstore that you particularly want to support, your purchases will still go, a certain percentage of them still go into a big pot. And at whatever point, I don't know if they do it quarterly or how often they do it, but they split up that pot amongst all of the independent bookstores that are part of bookshop.org. And they all get a little piece of that. So I just think that that's super cool, and I appreciate it so much because, it is, if you don't have an independent bookstore in your town, and the online shopping is just easier, okay? Let's just be honest, right? It's just easier in our culture, in our society, in how busy we are. It's just easier. So to have that online option that is easier, but to also be supporting independent bookstores, that's huge. So I will put in the comments here, or the show notes, or whatever it's called. I don't know, whatever the term is on YouTube. I will put down there a link to my Goodreads profile so you can follow me. You can check out what I'm reading. I'll also put a link, and it'll be an affiliate link to bookshop.org. And if you happen to use that link and you make a purchase, I'll also get a little bit of a percentage of your sales, which is super cool, and I appreciate it. So I hope you guys have a fantastic November. Happy Thanksgiving. That's my favorite holiday. And I will see you in December.